see if you can make time. If not for this one, then for the next one that would be on the 14th of this month. Next, I would like to invite Miss Barbara Taylor to the podium.
Thank you. Well, those of us with Justice Knox are so excited because in 2 days we are all meeting at the Nehemiah Action Assembly. There we will have specific action asks in 2 campaigns, education and homelessness. We will also give brief updates on ongoing work with CAT, the transportation, and the City of Knoxville to develop a micro-transit pilot that will roll out this summer. And ongoing work with city, law enforcement, and other community agencies to continue to reduce gun violence. In addition, we will introduce our new research on the economic stability of thousands of households across the county, and using this research to bridge into our action on homelessness, because many families are struggling and are just one emergency away from a disaster like homelessness. If you want to read about the asks on education and homelessness, I've made a few copies, and while you're waiting in line for your lunch at our potluck, you can read it. We'll be out there. Okay. Also, please understand, this was in your order of service. This is a ticket to the Action Assembly. If you already have a ticket, then now you have one to give to a friend or neighbor and make sure that they come to the Action Assembly also. Understand how important it is to show up on Tuesday morning. Our public officials continue to work with us because they know we are a large organized network that can provide them with the support they need to do the right thing. We will have some public officials, including our Knox County mayor, who have never attended our action before. They need to see that when we say over 1,200 people will show up to make asks of them and to show the public will for change, that indeed over 1,200 people will show up. Last year, this congregation had 106 attendees to the Nehemiah Action Assembly. We told them we would top that this year. We told them we wanted to hit at least 120. So let's do that. Please be one of us. Thank you very much, and see you Tuesday evening. Doors open at 6 o'clock, and you can find, there will be someone with a little TV UUC sign if you want to sit with your cohort. And it's so good and so important and so worthwhile. Please come.
Next, I would like to introduce Ellie Aring.
Hi, I'm Ellie Aring. I'm here on behalf of the high school youth group to invite you all to the all ages prom on May 3rd. We really do mean all ages. This is a fundraiser for our group to help us attend great events like the retreat. Please show your support and come have fun. Check us out on our website for the multiple ways to support us.
Dancing at the prom, yes. All right, so I would like to ask that everyone silence their electronic devices and enjoy the service. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Claudia Presley. I'm the Director of Finance and Operations here at TVUC. I just wanted to remind you all that today is a Share the Plate Sunday. The organization for today is Drums Up, Guns Down. You're going to be hearing a little bit more from Miriam Davis about what that organization does and how they do it later during the service. But right now, let me remind you that when you leave the sanctuary, there are baskets at the choir railing. You're welcome to put checks or cash in there. You can also give by texting to the number 73256, type in TVUC and the amount you would like to give. There are also signs around the building that say scan to give. You can scan with your phone and give securely that way. If you're watching online, there should be a give button or bar. So once again, thanks for being here, and please give generously to Guns Down, Drums Up, Guns Down. Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Suzanne Brown, and I am a member here at TVUC. I have the pleasure of serving as Worship Associate and to introduce our guest speaker, Abhaya Darpana. Abhaya first became a member of a UU church in 2011 and was later a member of this church for the years he lived in the area. He was ordained a Buddhist minister in 2020 and serves on the board of directors for the Lotus Light Center here in Knoxville. Now, if you haven't done so already, please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices as we enter into worship service.
When Camille Saint-Saëns composed the Carnival of the Animals, he captured some of the beauty and majesty of many of the earth's creatures. But one of the animals he chose to include was pianists. And it's a humorous take where they are practicing their scales and having some trouble. So take this as a time to meditate on the idea of practice, how it can be frustrating, and how it can be rewarding, and if you listen to the last chord, how it is never done. It's never finished.
Our opening words are by Kathleen McTeague. We come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's faces and see their communion, the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope, is hallowed by our presence together. Come, let us worship together.
Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our chalice lighting hymn.
Please remain standing in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 1020 in the Teal hymnal, Wuyaya.
Good to be gathered in all the ways that we gather those here in the sanctuary and watching from home or another space in our building. And I have a story to share with you today that's adapted from a version of an old story, and it's adapted from a version shared in a book called Buddha at Bedtime. And it's a book of many stories, maybe familiar to some of us, and there may be some that are new. And this is a story that begins with 4 princesses who lived in a faraway land. And these princesses heard one day somebody talking about a magical tree that was somewhere on the palace grounds. And they were pretty surprised because they had lived there their whole lives, and they went outside on the grounds and loved to see the gardens and had never heard or seen a magical tree before. Have any of us ever seen a magical tree? So they went to ask the most reasonable person to ask. They went to ask the palace gardener. And he said, "Oh, yes, the tree that you are thinking of is the magical king-shuk tree. But you have never seen it because part of its magic is that it can only be seen on your birthday." And the girls were very curious. Is anybody here curious about this tree? And they asked the gardener to show them the tree, and he said, "Well, you can't see it except on your birthday, so I'll tell you what. I'll take each one of you on your birthday, the next time you have a birthday, to show you the tree." And the girls agreed. Now, they were really excited, and they had to wait until their birthdays, and all of their birthdays were at different times. How many of us have ever had to wait for something you were excited about? It was really hard to wait. But they were so excited, they agreed they didn't want to spoil the surprise for one another. So they agreed that they wouldn't talk about what they had seen until all four of them had gotten to see the magical king-shuk tree. Does that sound like a good agreement? Yeah. So when the first princess's birthday came, she went to the gardener and reminded him of his promise. And he took her to a special spot on the grounds, and there, indeed, was a tree she had never seen before, and it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen in her life. But she didn't tell her sisters about it. The next sister's birthday came. She too went and reminded the gardener of the promise and was taken to see the tree, and she was overcome by its beauty and its majesty. But she too did not tell her sisters. And so the third and the fourth sister all got to see the tree when it was finally their turn, when it was finally their birthday. And then after that, finally, they were able to talk to one another about what they had seen, because each one of them was sure that that tree was the most incredible thing they had ever seen in their entire lives. Think about a moment when you have seen something that was so incredibly beautiful or majestic or overwhelming. And so the girls began to tell one another about what they had felt when they had seen the tree. And the first sister said, "The leaves that were on the tree were sparkling. They were the most incredible green, and they sparkled like emeralds." And another sister said, "Oh, But the tree I saw branches that were like silver, and there was dew on them that sparkled like diamonds, and it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen." All of her other sisters were looking a little bit like this. The third sister said, "Hold on, I'm not sure we actually saw the same tree. The tree that I saw had these incredible fruits on it, these huge purple fruits that smelled so good, and they were like huge amethysts hanging from the branches." And the fourth sister said, "Excuse me, no, the king-shuk tree, I don't think you saw the same tree I did. The king-shuk tree had these incredible blossoms that were as red as rubies, and they smelled as good as anything I've ever smelled in my life." Have any of us ever smelled flowers that smelled really good? And the girls thought that maybe they had been tricked. Maybe this wasn't the same tree that they had seen, or maybe it wasn't even a magic tree at all, that they were just taken different places. And so they went to find the gardener to ask him what had happened. And when they told him about their different trees that they had seen, he began laughing. And I wonder, some of us might have already guessed what the answer to this riddle was. He said, "Well, girls, the tree is different in different seasons, and your birthdays are all in different seasons, so of course the tree was different at different times. The princess whose birthday was in the winter, what did she see?" the bare silver branches? What about the sister who saw the tree in the springtime? She saw the beautiful green leaves beginning to grow. Yes, this doesn't necessarily match with the 4 seasons, does it? Maybe a little bit later in the spring, the third sister went and saw what? The flowers, the blossoms, and then the sister who saw the fruits on the trees. What season might that have been? Summer, maybe the fall, yeah. So it was then that the 4 girls realized that the only way that they could learn more and experience more of the magical King Shuk tree was by listening to one another and telling one another what they had experienced, and maybe finding more people who were able to see it, were lucky enough to see it on their birthdays, because perhaps there were not only 4 things that the tree was. And so they learned that it's important not only to listen to your own experiences, but to those of others. And my friends, I think we already know that more than one thing can be true at a time. And so that is our story for this morning. And those who are heading to our religious exploration spaces, we will sing them out with our recessional. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is David Massey. I'm a member of the spiritual care team here at TVUUC. And this is the time in our service when we share joys and concerns in the congregation. It is with a great deal of sorrow that I must report that Bill Dockery, a former member of this congregation, died yesterday morning at his home in Holston Hills. He had been receiving hospice care at home for the last few weeks. Bill was a consummate storyteller, journalist, columnist, editorialist, and media wise man. He was a curmudgeonly intellectual and an intellectual curmudgeon. He was a fierce advocate for those with disabilities, starting with his own daughter. He was a fast and true friend, devoted husband, and loving father. I was privileged to visit with Bill and his wife Emily Thursday afternoon. Bill expressed a fond regard for this congregation and how much TVUUC meant to him. We extend our deepest sympathy to Bill's wife Emily, his ex-wife and close friend Donna Creech, and his 2 children, Marshall and Haley. Several members of our congregation are undergoing treatment for cancer or facing a cancer diagnosis, including Bobby Cruz and Sylvia Smith. Bobby reports that she has now been through chemotherapy, surgery, and radiation in her journey with breast cancer. It has been a bumpy ride with each phase so far, but she and her husband, Clay Thurston, are hopeful that everything to come will go a bit easier. And here is an update on Sylvia Smith's lung cancer. Sylvia's second chemo treatment last month sent her into the hospital with pneumonia and a clot in her lung. She was eventually sent home, still sick, and her oncologist postponed chemo treatment number 3 for a week. This coming Monday, Sylvia will have a CAT scan, and on Tuesday will discuss with her oncologist if another chemo treatment might help or if she goes into palliative care. We hold both Bobby and Sylvia close in our hearts this day and in the days to come. Becky Chafee this week had knee surgery for a torn ACL and meniscus. She considers herself lucky to have an endless stream of friends to help her, but she's stuck at home for a couple of weeks, and she does love company. Emily Chi is grateful, as are we all, that her family in Taiwan was not affected by the earthquake there last week. The earthquake was centered in a small city on the eastern coast of the island, whereas Emily's family members all live in Taipei on the west coast. Alice Woody, the stalwart co-leader of our congregation's Family Promise Ministry to homeless families, fell at home on Friday, sustaining a nasty bump on her head and another one near her left eye. The doctors at UT Emergency Room concluded she will be fine in a few days and sent her home to rest. Alice is grateful that Betty Coleman and Rachel Kovac came to the rescue, made dinner for our Family Promise families. And if you don't know, Family Promise families were here all this past week with lots of volunteers helping out. And Betty and Rachel cleaned up afterwards. Alice says she accepts only the Purple Eye Award. We're glad to see that Sammy Maples, Sammy, are you here today? Sammy is not here, is out of the hospital. His doctors are hoping to totally eliminate his skin infection in time to have his right knee replaced on April 29th, followed by the left knee 3 months later. Sammy welcomes love and light from the congregation, but he says we can also send him pulled pork with Carolina vinegar-based sauce or pecan pie with Bluebell ice cream. He's not picky. Congratulations to Tony Powell. Raise your hand, Tony. Whose second grandchild was born last week. Baby Coraline came into this world weighing 9 pounds, 6 ounces, and measuring 23 inches. Mother Kayla, Tony's granddaughter, is doing fine. Tony's daughter, Nikki, who lives in Chattanooga, was able to come up in time to be in the delivery room. Congratulations to all of you. Shane Smith's mother had her last radiation treatment for breast cancer this past week and is doing well. This past week, Judy Ann Langston and Sue Wright were surrounded by the love and attention of family and church friends as they moved into their new home at Shannondale Assisted Living, where they have been welcomed by other TVUUC members who live at Shannondale and by new neighbors as well. I want to remind you to stop by the caring table in the lobby after service today to sign cards for all of these folks, and also to welcome everyone, including visitors, to our first Sunday lunch today. That is a joy that we have and celebrate every first Sunday, and even if you didn't bring anything, there is plenty of food for you as well. For these joys, concerns, and sorrows, as well as those unspoken or unknown to us, let us send our love and light into the world by singing our dedication hymn. The words are in your order of service.
Please turn to the back of your gray hymnals and join me in responsive reading 596, Boundless Goodwill. I will read the first words, and you will read the words in italics. Let us cultivate boundless goodwill. Let none in anger or ill will wish another harm. Radiating friendliness over the whole world. And now a prayer and meditation by Thich Nhat Hanh. Let us be at peace with our bodies and our minds. Let us return to ourselves and become holy ourselves. Let us be aware of the source of being common to us all and to all living things. Evoking the presence of the great compassion, let us fill our hearts with our own compassion towards ourselves and towards all living beings. Let us pray that we ourselves cease to be the cause of suffering to each other. With humility, with awareness of the existence of life and of the sufferings that are going on around us, let us practice the establishment of peace in our hearts and on earth. Now we will enter into a moment of silent worship. Amen and namaste. Please remain seated. For our hymn, it is in our order of service. I am the calm, a breath of song.
Hi, I hope you'll sing along with me. I'm going to start with the harmony, and once I feel you're comfortable with that, I'll switch to the melody and ask you to keep holding up that harmony for a while and do what you're comfortable doing. I am the calm, you are the calm, we are the calm. Take a breath. I am the calm, you are the calm, we are the calm. You can rest. And the closing, I am the calm. Let's do that all again. I am the calm. Now you are the calm. We are the calm. Take a breath. I am the calm. You are the calm. We are the calm. You can rest. I am the calm. Now you keep that going. I am the calm in the eye of the storm, calm to center. I am the calm in the eye of the storm. Take a breath. I am the calm in the eye of the storm, calm to center. I am the calm in the eye of the storm. You can rest. I am the calm. calm. If you can join me on the melody, go ahead. Here we go. Ready, go. I am the calm in the eye of the storm, calm to center. I am the calm in the eye of the storm. Take a breath. I am the calm in the eye of the storm, calm to center. I am the calm in the eye of the storm. You can rest. I am the calm. Now sing whatever you want. I am the calm. You are the calm. We are the calm. Take a breath. I am the calm. You are the calm. I am the calm. You can rest. I am the calm. I am the calm. You're the calm. We're the calm. I am the calm.
That's lovely. My name is Miriam Davis. I am a staff member here in the Religious Education Department and a parent of a teenager in our program and a member of the church. And I have had experience with our recipient of Share the Plate for probably about 15 years. Drums Up, Guns Down aims to interrupt the cycle of gun violence in Knoxville among youth by providing positive, life-enhancing activities through music and the spirit of West African drumming. Drums Up, Guns Down was itself born out of gun violence and tragedy in 2021 when 3 students during a 3-week period at Austin East High School were killed by gunfire. One was a student of Obiana Ajanaku, a longtime teacher of West African drumming at Vine Middle School and Austin East High School. One afternoon, Obiana noticed the best friend of one of the deceased students in a room by himself playing the drums with all of his energy and his heart and his soul. It was a spiritual experience, and the pain was just coming out through his drumming. And it was then that the idea of Drums Up, Guns Down was born. Traditional drumming has always been a tool to help people deal with anger, frustration, and pain resulting from trauma. Joining that tradition with his lifetime of drumming, teaching, and community service, Obiana Ajanaku has created a program that introduces workable alternatives to violence for youth and young adults. Through learning to drum together, participants heal together. They learn how to listen to one another, how to step up and step back, how to solo and blend, how to support one another, to work together, to problem solve, and to express themselves positively. There is no charge to any youth who participates in Drums Up, Guns Down. All of the instruments are provided, the uniforms are provided, transportation is provided, snacks are provided, lessons are provided, practice space is provided, and drumming education is provided. In the summer, Drums Up, Guns Down sponsors Kumbha Camp, a 7-week arts and culture program that engages youth in West African drum and dance culture. It includes life skills, STEM subjects, arts and crafts, mental wellness, healthy nutrition, drumming, and dance. The cost for the program is minimal, and scholarships are made available to all in need. This is the work your donation today will support. Half of everything that is donated today will go to Drums Up, Guns Down, and the other half to TVUUC. I invite you to give generously to the work of creative healing. Next week, we will again have a Share the Plate with Drums Up, Guns Down, and Mr. Ajanaku himself will be here to share some drumming and some inspiration. Thank you.
Neither of the sisters could be here this morning. So they left me here all alone to sing this song. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can honor this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. I am alone and I am searching, hungering for answers in my time. I am balanced at the brink of wisdom. I am impatient to receive a sign. I move forward with my senses open. Imperfection, it be my crime. In humility I will listen. We're all swimming to the other side. On this journey through thoughts and feelings, binding intuition, my head, my heart, I am gathering the tools together. I am preparing to do my part. All of those who have come before me band together and be my guide. Loving lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all of the gifts we've been given to share have been with us since life's beginning, and we never noticed they were there. We can balance at the brink of wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in this stream together, some in power, some in pain. We can honor this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving the spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. And loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side.
Good morning, good morning. Hey. So we're going to share and kind of reflect on the idea of balance a bit today. And so I got a good message on balance just when they called me and asked me to speak, particularly because they said, well, usually the message is, 15 to 20 minutes or so. But if you go to the monastery where I trained, when my teacher gets ready to give a Dharma talk, so sermon, Dharma talk, kind of same thing. You can be guaranteed that you're going to be there for 60 minutes. Most of the time, 90 minutes. And if she really gets fired up, a good 2 hours is not totally unheard of. So balance is situational. And so that would not be balance for this situation, particularly when we have, also I walked in and found out today is potluck day, so I know that's not going to go over. So just rest assured, we're going to be balanced on the proper time today. So I got a good little lesson before we even got started. But yeah, truly this idea of balance, particularly in my personal life and practice, has been a struggle at times. Some of the core pointers that we're given in spiritual circles particularly can often seem to be conflicting or really out of balance with each other. If I try this or try that. So in my own journey, I've really struggled with like kind of which way should I go with these things. I mean, I've had sleepless nights and palpitations, worrying like, whoa, what am I doing the right thing or not? And so really struggled with this question, particularly like, should things like altruism and selfless service, I mean, that sounds great. That's good advice, yeah. Should that be my focus, or should I really kind of start at home and clean up my own habits and my own heart and my mind to fulfill my calling and potential? So both of these sound like good things, but it's like, it seems like kind of, this little group over here really says this is the way to do it. Throw yourself into acts of service and be selfless. And other people say, oh, you really need to, clean up your own act first. So, and then also, besides those in spiritual circles, there's also just these cultural influences and cultural swings that come about. So as a child of the 80s, I was brought up that and kind of inculcated that the way to fulfill your human potential is to get rich or die trying. You need to make sure you've got a Rolex and Mercedes and live in a gigantic house on the golf course, by the time you're 20, or you're not doing it right. The culture is, if you talk about taking time off, you're kind of shamed and like, what, you took time off? You took a break? You had a rest? I worked 89 hours last week and I haven't had vacation in 3 years. That's the way to do it. That's the way to take care, fulfill your role to society and to yourself and your family. So that can be like kind of some cultural that kind of swings a little bit. There are a little bit of things there. Yeah, it is good to take care of business, but maybe that got a little unbalanced this way. And kind of the catchphrase now is just self-care, which is wonderful, but also it kind of loses its message when it gets to the only thing self-care means is to take a bubble bath and have cake and ice cream for dinner tonight. So that's maybe a little bit unbalanced, going a little too far. There are sometimes self-care is doing some, means doing some difficult things, taking care of some business, and maybe it's calling a friend and apologizing. Maybe that's taking care of myself in my environment. So I just want to kind of bring out that there are these things that kind of like to push us back and forth this way and that way. And so, I think both of these things are important to include, but so is self-care and altruism, are those mutually exclusive? They'd be like, it has to be one or the other. Or are they even at odds with each other? Does that mean there has to be this war going on, which I've certainly felt at times, trying to figure out, taking advice of others, like which way should I point myself? So is there some way that I can balance, these callings in my life? So I want to share with you a parable from the Buddhist tradition that really kind of time of reflection and over several times of reflection kind of helped to reconcile this for me. This is called the Bamboo Acrobat. This is a parable told by the Buddha. So to put it into context also, just as balance is in context and in relationship. So the Buddha was speaking to his monastics, and these are people who have renounced worldly life, so they've kind of gone a little bit extreme. I'm not going to have a job. I'm not going to have a family. I don't deal with money. I don't own anything except my begging bowl. So these people have kind of gone fairly extreme in some way, and you would think, oh, that means they're really isolated, and I just go in my cave and meditate. But since they don't work or deal with money, like, well, how do you eat and stuff? So you got to remember they're dependent on the lay community to come and give them offerings. So they do have to be in relationship, which means there has to be, that helps to bring things back into balance. They can't get so isolated. So just bearing in mind, this is the audience of people who maybe leaning one way or the other. So the Buddha gave this lovely parable of the Bamboo Acrobat. So once upon a time, a bamboo acrobat set himself atop his bamboo pole and said to his apprentice, "Come now, dear, climb up the bamboo pole and stand on my shoulders." "Yes, teacher," she replied. So she climbed up the bamboo pole and stood on her teacher's shoulders. So also to put this in context, this is like 2,600 years ago, India, Nepal area, sort of a little mini Cirque du Soleil. You've got the guy who's kind of the master. He's been doing this a while. I kind of like these guys. Kind of remind me of it's probably something like one of these palm trees that they put a bamboo pole down in the ground where it's kind of firm. Maybe it has a little platform, and so he climbs up on top of that, and the people in the market square come around and, "Oh, that's really cool," and throw a few coins in there. And that's how they make their living and go about their business. And so, yeah, if I go up there, I get a few coins. But if I have an apprentice and I climb on the top and I'm balanced standing up there, that's cool. I get a few coins. But I've got somebody, and then for the grand finale, somebody climbs up the pole, climbs up me and stands on my shoulders. Oh, I'm going to get a couple extra coins. So that's really great. Except, of course, as you do this, it's a little more dangerous. So the next part kind of goes on to talk about addressing that and this need for balance. So then they get up there. You've got the master, the apprentice on his shoulders now, and they're kind of swaying up there. So I'm wondering if maybe he got a little concerned. So he just wants to remind her. So then the bamboo acrobat said to her, "So you look after me, and I'll look after you. So you help take care of me, and I'll take care of you." And that's how, by guarding and looking after each other, we'll display our skill, collect our fee, and get down safely from the bamboo pole. So, yeah, we want to be able to do our thing. We'd like to get a little bit of money, and definitely at the end of the day, the safety is the main, if we got some broken legs, we're not going to be able to do this again. So that's a reasonable worry and concern, and some good advice is to, maybe they got, if you kind of lose focus, it'll help bring you back to remember, oh, I'm not just taking care of myself, I'm taking care of another person as well. And maybe that will help bring me back to focus, or maybe I would lose it on my own. Maybe a little bit of concern for another will wake that up into me and make me be mindful so that we don't fall down. So good advice from the master. But then when he said this, she said to her teacher, "That's not how it is, teacher. You should look after yourself. I'll look after myself. That's how, by guarding and looking after ourselves, we'll display our skill, collect our fee, and get down safely from the bamboo pole." So, really short side note, just really doesn't have anything to do with the message, but just also picture 2,600 years ago in this culture, sort of a feudal culture, the apprentice, you don't speak up to the master. Number one, you're silent unless spoken to. You do what they say. And also, as it gives it that the apprentice is a woman, the master's a man, so this is also a woman. So there's a little side note of, somebody who normally isn't listened to is speaking up. So we got these conflicting approaches like, yeah, what are we going to do? So where do we go from here? So actually, that's the way to do it, said the Buddha. It's just as she said to her teacher. You should practice mindfulness with the intent that I'll look after myself. So he kind of turned like, what? So he's talking to his, speaking to his followers and, telling them, oh, yeah, first look after yourself. So kind of that's where it starts is, it has to start at home. Certainly if I fall, I'm going to probably pull you down with me. So I need to start at home. But he didn't stop there. He said, you should also practice the establishing of mindfulness with the intent, I will look after others. He's like, well, what are you taking both sides? He says, so by looking after yourself, you look after others. By looking after others, you look after yourself. So it's not this straightforward, this or that. And this kind of brings out the classic instructions of mindfulness. There's a little refrain after each section on different areas to practice mindfulness. The end of it says, to contemplate these things that we want to be mindful about, to find balance about, to reflect internally, contemplate these things internally, contemplate them externally also, and then also contemplate them both internally and externally. So how does this affect me? How does it affect you? How does it affect we? Which was just lovely that was brought out in our one of our earlier readings this morning. May I, may we, may you, may we. So that was really lovely. That already came out today. So this is really the classic instruction of mindfulness, is to put things in context. So this idea of relating by this of internal, external, and then the group as a whole is really what's brought out for balance. So he goes on further to explain, and how do you look after others? By looking after yourself. So yeah, how does looking after me do, well, how am I supposed to do that? It's like, well, that's great advice, but then I need some nuts and bolts to go with this. So the way you focus internally, says, he mentions being by personal development, by cultivation and practice. So doing these things to grow myself personally, that brings some balance. So just like the tree, the more I grow, the stronger I cultivate myself, the more my roots can go down deeper, the stronger my branches are to hold up others. That's how, by cultivating for myself, I help to support others. And how do you look after yourself? By looking after others. So how is it by giving out there, things come back around to me? Like, which way should I, how do I focus my energy there? By acceptance, by harmlessness, by love and sympathy. And those have all been brought out today already in some of our songs that we've shared together. The harmless and love certainly came out in the Metta Sutta that we sang or had a responsive reading. So by putting these things out into the community that I'm in, this becomes the environment that I get to walk through. So that supports me. By me supporting this community, it comes back to me, makes a nicer place for me to walk through. He continues, while thinking, I'll look after myself, you should cultivate mindfulness. So while I'm looking after me, I should be mindful, which means mindful means pay attention to how it is for me and how it spreads out. And while thinking, I'll look after others. So I don't lose myself when I'm taking care of others, maybe doing some service work. I don't do it to the extent that I forget that I'm involved in this, and I do it until I'm burned out. And yes, maybe I'm giving out some food at the soup kitchen, but I'm doing it with a scowl because I'm back here again every Saturday. That takes all the sweetness out of it. So if I'm mindful of these things, it helps to bring balance back to how that works out. So really balancing these two is to make sure we really put first things first of all. So first things first, I have to balance for myself. We all know the saying about when the plane's going down, the little oxygen mask drops out. They say put the oxygen mask on yourself first. That way you're able to help others. Because if on my way to help my friend over here, I pass out, not only do I not help them, but now I'm someone else. Somebody else has to take care of me. So I cause more work in the world around me. So that's great to help yourself first with the oxygen mask, but to then be mindful, keep it in context. It's not time to take a selfie and like, hey, we're going down, but I'm doing great, while everybody else is passing out. Like, you don't stop there. You take time okay, I'll reflect internally. What about externally? How's it going? Oh yeah, now that I've got a few breaths, I can help you and come back. And we can balance these things out. So I want to just briefly share also particularly how this really, really played out and the Metta Sutta that we use for responsive reading was one of my really, really core practices for years. It was probably most instrumental in helping me to change my life. But it was difficult for me. The classic instructions are to, there's some cliches work in some instances and not so much in others, is that you can't love others unless you first love yourself. I know we've all heard this. I won't say that's 100% true. A lot of times it is, but this Metta Sutta of sending out goodwill, benevolence to all, radiating that out, and as it mentioned that, excluding none. So as I started this practice, it says, to start that with yourself and sending goodwill, benevolence to myself, well-wishing. That was really difficult for me at the start, because when I first started my practice, I wasn't in a good place. There was so much self-loathing and hatred and unworthiness, like, I'm not really deserving of this. So I couldn't get the ball rolling. I get like, it would just stop my practice dead right there every time. So I just had to throw myself aside, and I had to do the external thing first. I could easily wish this for the people that I love and care about in my little circle of my community that I move in. I could certainly wish well for them, or even the people that I barely knew, whoever I see in the line at the grocery store. Yes, I hope everything works out well for you, whatever's going on in your life. Even people that were difficult in my life, or that, the bully from junior high school who made me feel awful, I could wish them well and be great. But so externally I could do it, internally I couldn't. So it was still unbalanced. So what I had to do was get the ball rolling enough to where I just had that feeling, and it was building up as I would offer it to this person and this person. And it just there was just so much of this benevolence and well-wishing and just, I love you and I want the best for you. And I had to be really quick and just sneak it back, and also me. Because it's great to send it out, but if I send it out everywhere else but don't do it right here, there's still this one spot in the world, even if everybody else in the world is receiving love from me, but I leave out this little circle, there's still one spot in the world that it's not really saturating and getting in there. So there's one spot that's kind of not balanced. So I had to do that. I had to find a way that was different than the original instructions I had, which was start here and send it out. So I had to start out by sending it out and bringing it back in. Just the way the advice was sometimes, maybe the master said, here's where you need to focus. The apprentice said, well, what about focusing this way? So I'm sure I probably not so much gave you concrete answers, but maybe at least gave you like some different areas to investigate or explore, or some areas to contemplate. And I want to kind of leave you with really wise words from Winnie the Pooh. When he was going to visit his good friend Rabbit, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but when he shows up, Rabbit knows when Winnie the Pooh shows up, he wants to be fed, of course. That's his main thing. And Rabbit says, well, I've got some nice homemade bread here, so we can have this. And like, I'm making you some lovely toast. And Winnie the Pooh's really grateful. He said, well, what would you like on your toast? Would you like butter or honey on this toasted bread? And in his vast, vast wisdom, Winnie the Pooh said, well, how about both? That could be an option. So I just want to kind of leave you with that. Don't get caught up in this or that when you're balancing. It might be some of this, might be some of that, might be some of all of this. So just look for that in your balance. And thank you so much.
Anyone with mobility issues, visitors, and families with children are welcome to join us in the back to get first in line for the potluck. Now please rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, 1000, and the teal hymnal, Morning Has Come.
Be ye lamps unto yourselves. Be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourselves as to the only lamp. As our final act of worship, please turn and greet your neighbor.